Tal Farlow and the musical composition of Thelonious Monk, Straight No Chaser. I've caught Tal Farlow on intermission. He's appearing at the Emporium of Jazz, and there's another set that you can catch in Mendota with Tal in just a few moments. It's good of you to take time out, Tal. Welcome back to Minnesota. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be here, Dave. Really.
Tal, Thelonious Monk is a formidable composer for a guitarist, a pianist, almost any instrumentalist. But for the guitarist, what's the challenge in interpreting Monk?
Oh,
Is that a ridiculous question?
I don't know if he's provided the guitarist with a special challenge, but well, he's certainly interesting to play. And, it's yeah, it's great. It's quite a wide variety of music that from that which was basically a blues thing to things like Ruin My Dear and Round About Midnight, things like that. Really harmonic, stretched out,
A harmonic adventure, you're saying.
I'd say that. Thanks.
Or cliffhanging, as the case may be.
Yeah. I think we probably took that a little bright, that one that you just played.
Well, that was a date with John Scully on piano and Jack Six on bass and Alan Dawson drums going back in time.
Yeah, that's right. It's, what is that, so long? I don't think we ought to get into how long ago that was.
Oh, well, we won't probe that. I was reading something about your work, and somewhere along the line, you had mentioned the word articulation, that you were challenged by something called articulation. Is there any way you could translate that for those of us who are guitarists and for those of us who are just lay people?
Well, I think what I meant by that, and that perhaps wasn't the best word that I could have chosen, but it's the business of getting the left and the right hand fingers going together, which you got to note the strings on the frets with the left hand, and at the same time pick with the right hand, and that should be done, in a clean fashion, not too much extra noise, The clean performance is what I'm getting at, I think.
And that has always been a part of the building of your craft and artistry.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
I don't speak as the teacher or the critic, sir, but it seems to me that as you have developed the guitar and your artistry, you've also redesigned the instrument. Is that true?
Well, I have made some modifications on an instrument. One that got some publicity, I think, among the guitarists and followers of guitar music. Was it's simply a shortening of the scale, or making the distance between the nut and the bridge shorter, and the reason I did that at the time was that my guitar was not cutaway. Are we getting too technical, Ray?
Not at all.
No? Okay. Well, the cutaway on the guitar, that's just the part where the body is sort of indented, and so you can go higher on the neck. The guitar that I had at that time was not that way. It was a regular guitar and there were 14 frets to that body. In other words, that was sort of kept you from going very much higher. And what I did is have the first fret removed, and then the whole fingerboard, as it was, slid down to the nut. And that would, if you got one there at the octave, you get two extra. And so now that particular guitar and the fingerboard joined the body at the 16th fret. And so that and my considerably large hands made it almost to the effect of a cutaway. So, and also the strings are tuned to the tension that would be on a guitar tuned a half tone low, and they have a little looser feel. Since I go back to the days before amplification, I'm used to using good hefty sized strings on the guitar, unlike most players that came along in the electric age. You know, does that make any sense to you?
It certainly does.
Oh, good.
And I'm sure it does to a lot of listeners out there. And if we've lost some of you, here's another thought entirely. You've worked with some really interesting people. I remember an Artie Shaw Gramercy 5 that, was circa World War II, and then later on in the 50s it was reconstituted by Artie Shaw.
Yeah.
You were invited to join that group, and what was that experience like, first of all, working for Artie Shaw?
Well, it came about because most of the guys that started out in the group, and that was, Hank Jones and Tommy Potter and Denzel Best and Joe Rowland and myself and Artie, and we had all played at the Embers Club. You remember that?
Oh, yes, in the East 50s.
All right, from the Ralph Watkins Club.
Surely.
Well, Ralph and Artie were friends, and I think they got together. And if I'm not mistaken, one of the primary reasons for putting the group together was to play in the Embers, because we did play in there quite a bit. And anyway, it was that was the Gramercy 5, the version of the Gramercy 5 that did not have a corresponding big band. The ones previous to that were guys out of the band.
Out of the major big band of
Right.
Artie Shaw, yes, with Johnny Guarneri and...
I just so.
Yeah.
Right. And the one that I think Barney was in one, and...
Barney Kessel.
Yeah, he was in a different one with, I think, Dodo Marmarosa and I've forgotten who else.
Did Artie Shaw enjoy playing in that group?
I think so. I think he did.
Did you enjoy working with him?
Yes, yeah, it was, I had just come from, at that time, playing with Red, and
In the trio?
Yeah.
With Charlie Mingus?
Right.
Uh-huh.
The style that we were playing was a good deal lighter. As you know, Red had a very delicate touch, and most of the things we played were very quiet. And most of them were, a lot of them I would say were pretty brisk. We like to play fast. Red liked that, and Mingus liked it, and was certainly capable of it. And so it was quite different from the Artie's. His was mostly based on the dance band concept. I mean, we played versions of his Begin to Begin and things.
And special delivery.
Yeah, another Gramercy 5 thing also.
Yes. Well, certainly that environment, the Embers, was a interesting panorama. Let's see, it was right across the street from the El Morocco, wasn't it?
Right.
And all kinds of journeyman artists and actors and actresses would appear on the scene.
It was quite a collection of celebrities usually there, and from television and music
and they'd be sitting right under your guitar.
Yes.
Would the voice of Tallulah Bankhead reach out?
Yes, I think it would. I remember Dorothy Kilgallen used to come in there, and Dave Garroway, and lots of people. Peggy Lee used to come in quite often with Robert Preston. There was. I think he was in the '76 trombone show then. Oh, no, that wasn't the name of that, was it? That was.
Oh, the Meredith Wilson show. I can't think of it right now.
Wasn't it?
Tal, I know in the 1990s you're doing a lot of touring. Are you teaching as well?
Yes, I do teach at home in New Jersey. I have several students, but we don't have like a schedule so much, you know. I just come around when I'm there.
And when you're touring overseas, do you do both?
Sometimes, yes. I've done in Italy and in France. I've done taught in some schools there, guitar schools. It's interesting. A lot of good players there, young fellows.
The guitar has gone through quite an evolution, hasn't it?
It certainly has.
When you think about it, going back to its use in just as a blues instrument in down home, country, and jazz and blues groups, today it has a different kind of place, doesn't it?
Well, it covers a lot of. I mean, it's played in so many different styles, and you know, it's a very flexible instrument, I guess you would say.
How about today's rock guitarists? Are they getting beyond the one note and hiccup stage?
Well, I really don't know too much about that.
I might not. That puts you on the spot, and I'll not ask you to answer that question. It's been a pleasure touching base with you again, Tal.
It was lovely to see you last night. I always look forward to seeing you when I come to here, to Minneapolis.
Well, I know that Dave Maslow, the bassist, and Gary Gauger, the percussionist, are standing by, and there's an audience out there. Have a wonderful time on the last two sets, and we'll see you soon again. Keep well.
Very fine. Thank you very much, Leigh.
Have a good year.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Right.